Hi, Patrick here. 31 days of Halloween 2023, and we are almost there. This is our 30th film out of 31. One more to go after this. And I was trying to figure out which one to watch, and I had a ton of ideas. But I was doing that. I said, let me take a whiz through Tubi because I was doing that when I was watching Hellacious, which is the film that we did before this one, day 29. And lo and behold, I couldn't believe it. Sitting there looking back at me was the movie that we'll be talking about. Now, I know that it got recently released on Vestron, and good for that because I would like to actually get a copy of that because I've never seen this movie and I thought it was pretty badass. And it wasn't until later on that I sort of figured out what the inspiration for this movie was. But anyway, the movie we're going to be talking about here on day 30 is The Wraith from 1986, starring Charlie Sheen, Sherlyn, Fenn, Randy Quaid, Clint Howard, Nick Cassavetes, even Griffin O'Neill was in this movie. He played the first guy to get a little ahead of myself here. So anyway, the movie opens up and we see that there's a young guy coming inside this small town called Brooks, Arizona, and he's coming in. He's new to town. He's about 17 or 18, and that's played by Charlie Sheen. That's Jake, and Jake comes on in there, and as he comes in, he sees a very cute girl named Carrie, and he stops and they start talking, and he tells her he's new in town, and she says, "Well, hop on, I'll give you a ride to work." But before she can do that, we meet the villain, who's Packard Walsh, played by Nick Cassavetes. Um, well, maybe next time, maybe I'll see you at at your job. She works at the Big K Burger place. So he rides off, but then we see Packard basically treat Carrie not as a girlfriend but as property, and he says, "Well, no one loves you like I do. If no, I can't have you, nobody else will." Basically, he's just a psychopath. Um, so as we follow this through, we find out that Packard and his gang of thieves, what they do is they find people with hot cars and they force them to race. We see that in the beginning of the film, and in fact, this one guy who they were racing, it looked like he was going to win, except they had to cheat to win because he was a good driver. So he loses his car, and that's lucky that's all he lost, because these guys are not above killing, as we will find out. Um, so meanwhile, back at this town, uh, we see that Jake's Jake comes in there. He disappears, but we find that Jake is really Jamie, and Jamie has that was Carrie's original boyfriend, but he was murdered, and she has blocked out what she saw or didn't see. Anyway, Jamie's younger brother Billy works at the burger place too, and so anyway, he decides he's going to help Carrie and give her a ride home. But then Packard and his gang show up, and Packard's upset that Billy would do such a thing, and he says, "Well, we're gonna have to go race. We're gonna have to race for your car." He says, "I'm not racing my car," and he says, "Well, you'll do that, or else, basically, you know." But all of a sudden, suddenly, across the street pops up this very cool Dodge Turbo Interceptor. It's all black, and it's this. It looks like it could be a twin to Knight Rider almost, and it's a badass car. And it revs up his engine, and it's basically challenging Packard and his gang to a race. One of the gang says, "I'll take him. I'll race him." So so that's what they do. They go out to an area and they race. And what they don't know is that this is the Wraith, and he is going to be playing by the same rules they try to play, or they did it with him, and that is playing for keeps. Whereas they want the pink slip to the car, he wants their souls, and that's exactly what happens. The Wraith pops up. He starts picking off Packard's gang one by one through races. He kills 2 of them that way, and then he kills 2 others by basically blowing up their garage with them in it. He spares 1 gang member because he had nothing to do with Jamie's murder, and so he gets off. Meanwhile, the Sheriff Loomis, Lieutenant Loomis, is trying to solve the mystery. They keep trying to find the Wraith and trapping him, but he's just too powerful. His car's, supernaturally strong. He can outrace anybody, and they just can't catch him, and they're not going to catch him. So as he eliminates the gang, and then finally Packard decides that he has no more gang left, so he's going to grab Carrie and race on out to California. And she doesn't want to go, and when Billy tries to stop him, Packard beats him up in front of everybody who just stand there and watch it. None of them tried to help. But he kidnaps Carrie, and he takes out of town. And of course, Carrie wants nothing to do with him. She knows that he's evil and that he killed JB, and so it looks like things are going to come to a bad end for her when he pulls over and he gets out of the car and he has a really nasty switchblade. But then all of a sudden, out of the blue, it comes to Wraith. He wants to race Packard one more time. And Packard says, "Okay, I'll race you." Like, okay, I haven't seen you just destroy my whole gang, but I'll still race you anyway. So he gets in there in his Corvette, and they race. And lo and behold, whereas the Wraith goes ahead and gets way ahead of him, turns around, and then charges back and takes on Packard head to head, absolutely destroying the car. That was really weird about this is like most of the people think that would get killed this way, there'd be nothing left of them. Wouldn't be enough to fill a cigar box. But that's not how it happens. The bodies are left intact, but the eyes are burned out. So anyway, he had one more. He had one more race in him. He managed to do it, and then he basically comes back as Jake, and then finally Carrie recognizes him as Jamie, and he says, "Well, before we get out of here, I got to do one more thing," and he drops his car off to Billy, and he says, "Take care of it," and there's all the instructions that you'll need in the glove box, and he says, "Who are you?" And he goes, "Well, you know who I am." And he drives away to go pick up Carrie, and Billy figures that out who he is, and he cries out for his brother's name, and then the movie ends. All right, so I know I just told you the whole damn show, right? Okay, obviously this movie here is definitely inspired by High Plains Drifter by Clint Eastwood. A young man who got killed by a vicious gang and then comes back for revenge. And so he starts picking off the people who have killed him one by one, and he does it supernaturally. It's a good movie, actually, for what it is. It's a lot of fun. Charlie Sheen was, still pretty much fresh-faced. Sherlyn Fenn looked absolutely gorgeous. Nick Cassavetes, whose father John was a giant in Hollywood, he played Packard Walsh. He was definitely a very, very good villain. We had Clint Eastwood in here as the tech guy for the gang. We had Griffin O'Neill as the first gang member that the Wraith picks off. And we had Randy Quaid playing Lieutenant Loomis and doing a good job, too. This movie was a lot of fun. Like I said, it tells a story. It's a simple story, but it tells it well. A lot of action. In fact, the practical effects on this movie are outstanding, but it is laced with a little bit of tragedy as one crew member and 2 other crew members. One crew member was killed, and 2 others were badly wounded during filming. They used practical effects. When you see the fire, when you see the explosions, that's not CGI, kids. That's the real deal. They did that back in the 80s. And they did some really hellacious stunts. And the driving on the road, crazy. It looked like they put a camera in front of the cars they used, and just drove as fast as they could. Uh, yeah, it's a and the area in Arizona where they filmed at, that's a really unforgiving place. If you go off the road, some of the places they showed, yeah, you wouldn't be big enough to fit in a shoebox. Um, Very scary in that respect. Good performances all the way around. Um, as far as that goes, Sherlyn Fenn, whew, yeah, she was back in the day. I do believe this is before her Twin Peaks fame, and this is actually before Charlie Sheen's Platoon fame as well. And of course, Clint Howard was there, and that was Ron Howard's older brother. Um, so, all in all, the Wraith is it's a good movie, and I was just thinking about, like, man, why haven't they made a sequel to this? This would be a lot of fun. Um, this if they did a film for if they did a film updating the Wraith now, wow, all sorts of possibilities, right? Now this is the type of movie that you'd like to see come back. I don't know who owns the right to it. I do believe Lionsgate does because they had the Vestron. They released it on Vestron. That's part of Lionsgate. So who knows? Who knows? Obviously, you need a brand new cast, pretty much. Though the entire cast, as far as I know, is still with us today. All the main principals are still with us. So if you wanted to bring in some legacy characters, you could do that as well. All right. This movie, it didn't do that well at the box office then. Of course, this movie only came out at 88 theaters when it released. The theaters back in the 80s were vastly different than today. Back then, this movie opened on less than 100 screens. Today, it would open on thousands and do much better than what it did back in '86. So, as far as the money being made or not made back, it really can't compare yesterday to today. I do believe if this movie ran today, it would do crazy business. Let's see. Yeah, that's about it. That's about it for day 30. We talked about the Wraith. One more movie to go, and me, the Cheetah. We have a feeling that we might be. We found the movie that we're going to be talking about, and we decided that we're going to go out with a bang. So we got one more movie to go, and we're doing a added bonus as well. So stay tuned for day 31 of the 31 Days of Halloween 2023. Thanks so much. We have other films. If you missed it, we have them there in the comment box or description box. You can go and check out what we've reviewed. All right. Thanks so much, and we'll see you for one more. Peace.